Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about how Britain has, well, kind of become two different countries. On one side, you have this global capital of immense wealth, and on the other, a nation of forgotten towns and shrinking opportunities. So, how did the United Kingdom get so divided? Let's get into it.
To really get your head around the UK today, you have to picture it as two totally separate places. It's really a tale of two vastly different countries, just happening to occupy the same small island.
So, on one hand, you've got London. We're talking about a global financial powerhouse, home to 45 billionaires and, get this, over 215,000 millionaires. It's a concentration of wealth that's almost hard to wrap your mind around.
But then you step outside that bubble, and it's like a different world entirely. The average disposable income for the country is actually lower than in America's poorest states. In a town like Blackpool, life expectancy is shorter than it is in Rwanda. I mean, think about that. This isn't some developing nation. This is the reality for millions of people in what's supposed to be the world's sixth largest economy.
So, the big question is, how on earth did one of the richest countries in the world get so split down the middle? To find the answer, we've got to rewind the clock to a really pivotal moment in British history.
Okay, so the story of this massive divide really kicks into gear back in 1979. A new Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, comes into office with this one single-minded mission: to slay the dragon of inflation that was just torching the British economy.
See, Thatcher inherited an economy that was, frankly, a total mess. The 1970s were defined by these huge oil price shocks and this vicious cycle where powerful unions would demand higher wages to keep up with prices, which of course just pushed prices even higher. Your money was literally losing its value by the day.
The government's strategy was basically pure economic shock therapy, a real three-punch combo. First, they decided to choke off the growth of the money supply. Second, they jacked up interest rates to a jaw-dropping 17%, making it almost impossible for businesses to borrow. And third, they slashed public spending, even though the country was already in a recession.
And you know what? If you just look at that one goal, it was a stunning success. Inflation was running hot at 13% in 1979. Just 4 years later, it was crushed down to 5%. The fire was definitely out.
And this is the absolute key to the whole story. That victory came at a huge cost. A cost that wasn't shared equally at all. The medicine might have worked, but the side effects for millions of people were severe, and they were permanent. So this policy didn't just kill inflation, it basically cracked the country in two, creating these two separate economies. And yeah, deindustrialization was happening globally, but the way it happened in the UK was especially brutal. And later governments, from both sides of the aisle, pretty much doubled down, supercharging London's financial boom instead of changing course. You can see it right in the numbers. While those high interest rates and the strong pound were just crushing the manufacturing regions, we're talking unemployment soaring past 15% in Northern England, Scotland, and Wales. London's service-based economy held on. Joblessness there stayed under 10%. The divide was becoming a chasm. I mean, the speed of this collapse was just breathtaking. In a little over a decade, manufacturing's share of the entire UK economy was sliced almost in half. This wasn't some slow, managed decline. It was like an economic wrecking ball that hollowed out entire communities and completely redrew the country's political map for generations.
And while all that was going on, this happened. 40%. That is the staggering increase in inequality during this period. The country's economy grew overall, sure, but that new wealth was not shared. Britain got richer, but it also became a far, far more unequal place.
So all this new, concentrated wealth created this weird paradox in London. It became this magnet for global money, but in the process, it turned into what you might call a gilded cage, a beautiful, wealthy city that most actual Britons can't even afford to live in.
Yeah, check out this paradox. On paper, household incomes in London are about 14% higher than the national average. Sounds good, right? But once you factor in the absolutely astronomical cost of housing, that advantage basically vanishes. It shrinks all the way down to just 1%. For most people, that London pay premium is a complete myth.
So what is driving these insane costs? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is this number, 27%. In the first part of 2024, that was the share of all homes in London sold to foreign buyers. Think about that, more than 1 in every 4 properties.
And to really understand how massive that is, just like at New York City,
Over there, that number is just 0.3%. London's rate of foreign ownership is 90 times higher. 90! That kind of global demand puts an unbelievable squeeze on prices for local people.
And it's not just about housing. For decades now, government policy has actively made this economic divide worse. This wasn't an accident of history. It's the result of very specific choices about where to put the money.
I mean, think about the kinds of jobs that were lost and the kinds that were created. For every 100 jobs in something like iron manufacturing, you support over 900 other jobs. In the supply chain, local shops, the whole shebang. But for every 100 jobs in banking, that number's only around 200. This big shift meant that wealth and opportunity got funneled into the hands of a much, much smaller group of people.
You want to see the divide in action? Just follow the money. Look at public spending on transport. In London, it's nearly £1,200 per person. In the Northeast, it's $430. And in the East Midlands, just $350. The investment gap is just enormous.
And it's the exact same story when you look at funding for innovation. Public R&D spending is over £60 per person in London compared to just 21 in the North and a measly 14 in the Midlands. It creates this powerful feedback loop, right? Investment flows to London, so its economy grows, and that attracts even more investment, while other regions are just starved of the capital they need to compete.
One of the sources we looked at summed it all up with this incredibly vivid and brutal picture. London eats Michelin star food, while the rest of the UK eats scraps like stray cats. Wow. Decades ago, leaders like Tony Blair talked about this moment of flux, a chance to reorder the world. But when you look back, it feels like the only thing that's been fundamentally reordered is the UK economy itself, with everything just tilting and revolving around the singular, massive gravity of London. Which leaves us right here, with this one fundamental question for the UK's future. After decades of pulling apart, can this trend ever be reversed? Can prosperity ever be truly shared? And can this divided kingdom ever really feel united again?